My husband's entitled sister barged into my delivery room and screeched, "Name the baby after me or I'm taking her away." When I refused, she snatched my newborn and bolted toward the exit. The security guard blocked the door and said, "Not so fast. We've already called the police." Her smirk disappeared as sirens echoed outside. I never imagined that the birth of my first child would turn into a scene straight out of a daytime drama. Yet, here I am, sharing a story that still feels surreal. My husband, Alex, and I had been eagerly awaiting the arrival of our daughter. We had meticulously planned every detail, from setting up the nursery in our cozy apartment in Brooklyn to selecting the perfect name, Lila. The name held special significance for us, a tribute to Alex's late grandmother who had played a pivotal role in his upbringing. Throughout my pregnancy, Alex's sister, Sophia, had been a looming presence. Sophia had always been the dominant force in the family, accustomed to having things her way. Her sense of entitlement was something I had observed during family gatherings, but I never anticipated how it would manifest during such a personal moment in our lives. From the moment we announced our pregnancy, Sophia began inserting herself into our plans. She would often drop by unannounced, offering unsolicited advice and making subtle suggestions about baby names. "You know," she'd say, "naming the baby after family members is a tradition. It would be so lovely to have a little Sophia in the family." I would smile politely, brushing off her comments, thinking they were just passing remarks. As my due date approached, Sophia's behavior became more intrusive. She insisted on being involved in the birthing process, expressing a desire to be present in the delivery room. I firmly declined, emphasizing that I wanted this intimate moment to be shared solely between Alex and me. She seemed to accept my decision, but there was an underlying tension that I couldn't shake. The day finally arrived. After hours of labor at Mount Sinai Hospital, our beautiful Lila was born. The exhaustion was overwhelming, but the joy of holding my daughter for the first time eclipsed everything else. Alex was by my side, his eyes filled with tears of happiness. We were in our own bubble of bliss, savoring the first moments with our newborn. Our tranquility was shattered when the door to our hospital room burst open. Sophia stormed in, her face flushed with emotion. "I just heard the news," she exclaimed, her eyes darting to the baby in my arms. "Let me see my niece." Taken aback by her sudden entrance, I managed a weak smile. "Of course, Sophia. Meet Lila." Her expression darkened instantly. "Lila? You named her Lila?" I exchanged a nervous glance with Alex. "Yes," I replied cautiously. "After Alex's grandmother." Sophia's eyes narrowed, and her voice rose. "I thought we agreed you'd name her after me. It's only fair, considering everything I've done for you too." I was stunned. "Sophia, we never agreed to that. Alex and I chose a name that held meaning for us." She stepped closer, her demeanor growing more agitated. "After all the support I've given, I deserve this. Name her Sophia, or I'll take her away myself." My heart raced. "Sophia, you're being unreasonable. Please, calm down." But she didn't. In a swift motion, she reached down and grabbed Lila from my arms. "If you won't do what's right, I'll make sure she has a proper name." Panic surged through me. "Give her back," I cried, attempting to rise from the bed, but my body was too weak. Alex intervened, his voice firm. "Sophia, stop this now." Ignoring him, she turned toward the door, cradling Lila. But before she could take another step, a burly security guard appeared in the doorway, blocking her path. "Ma'am," he said sternly, "hand over the baby. We've already contacted the authorities." Sophia's bravado faltered. The color drained from her face as the distant sound of sirens grew louder. She hesitated, then reluctantly placed Lila back into Alex's waiting arms. The police arrived shortly after, and Sophia was escorted out of the hospital. The officers informed us that attempting to abduct a child, especially from a hospital, is a grave offense with severe legal repercussions. In the aftermath, Alex and I were left to process the whirlwind of emotions. The hospital staff was incredibly supportive, ensuring our safety and providing resources to help us cope with the trauma. Reflecting on the incident, I realized the importance of setting boundaries and the need to address family dynamics before they escalate. Childbirth is an intensely personal experience, and it's crucial to have a support system that respects and honors your wishes. To other expectant parents, I offer this advice: communicate openly about your preferences, establish clear boundaries, and don't hesitate to seek support when faced with challenging situations. Your well-being and that of your child should always come first. As for Sophia, the legal proceedings are ongoing. It's a painful chapter in our family story, but one that underscores the complexities of relationships and the lengths some will go to impose their will on others. Through it all, Alex and I remain united, focusing on the joy that Lila brings into our lives and the journey of parenthood that lies ahead. After Sophia was taken out of the hospital in handcuffs, things didn't calm down the way I expected. In fact, that was just the start of a much bigger mess. The hospital filed an official incident report, and we were interviewed by hospital staff and police more times than I could count. It was exhausting. But what really kept me up at night wasn't the paperwork or the interviews, it was the fear that she might try something again. Sophia wasn't just a loose cannon. She was manipulative. And she had always had a way of twisting people to her side, especially their parents. I knew what was coming next even before it started. The moment Alex's mom called us, I braced myself. She didn't mean it. She said softly over the phone, like that excused anything. Sophia's been under a lot of stress. I felt my blood boil. She tried to kidnap my daughter, I snapped. Stress doesn't explain that. There was silence on the other end for a few seconds before she said, "Well, you didn't have to press charges." I couldn't even respond. I just handed the phone to Alex and walked out of the room. My hands were shaking. I had just given birth, I could barely sit upright without pain, and I was already dealing with one of the worst family crises of my life. And now I had to deal with the guilt they were trying to lay on me. Over the next few weeks, it got worse. Sophia somehow got out on bail. We found out when Alex's cousin messaged him and said she saw Sophia at a yoga class like nothing had happened. I didn't care about the court stuff at that moment. I just wanted to know that Sophia wouldn't come near us. We asked the court for a restraining order. We had hospital security footage, nurse testimony, police reports. You'd think that would make it easy. But Sophia had hired a lawyer. Not just any lawyer, a high-priced, big-deal lawyer from Manhattan that her friend's husband worked with. And suddenly things got a lot more complicated. Her lawyer claimed Sophia had postpartum-related delusions, which was insane because she wasn't even the one who gave birth. They said she'd been under emotional distress after a miscarriage months earlier that the family had failed to properly support her through. It was a sob story, and I'll be honest, it made me sick. I don't know how they managed it, but they got the judge to deny the restraining order. Said there wasn't enough ongoing threat, and that since Sophia hadn't technically left the hospital with Lila, it didn't meet the level of abduction under state law. The rage I felt was something new. I wasn't just scared anymore. I was furious. And determined. I made sure to keep Lila close. I didn't go out much, not unless Alex was with me. We even got a new lock on our apartment door and a camera for our hallway. It felt like I was living in a prison made of fear. Not exactly the peaceful newborn bubble I had dreamed of. But Sophia didn't stay quiet. She started showing up places where she knew we might be. She never came close, never said a word, but she'd be parked outside the pediatrician's office, or standing 2 aisles away at the grocery store, just staring. No contact, just presence. Enough to rattle me every time. Alex confronted her once. We were at Prospect Park, trying to enjoy the fresh air with Lila, and Sophia was suddenly there, standing by a bench. He marched over while I stayed on the blanket with Lila. "You need to stop this," I heard him say. "This is harassment." She just looked at him and smiled. "I'm not doing anything wrong. You snatched a newborn from her mother's arms. You scared the hell out of us. What are you trying to do now?" "I just want to see my niece." "You lost that right." She shrugged like none of it mattered. "We'll see about that." And we did. A week later, we got a letter in the mail. It was from her lawyer. She was suing for visitation rights. That was the moment I broke down. Right there on the kitchen floor. My body collapsed and I cried until I couldn't breathe. Not just because I was scared, but because part of me started to wonder if she might actually win. It didn't make sense, but neither did any of this. We scrambled to find a lawyer. We drained our savings. We called in favors. We hired someone tough, someone who knew the system. She told us not to panic, that Sophia didn't have a leg to stand on. But she also warned us that family court could get messy. And sometimes judges make wild decisions. The weeks that followed were a blur of legal documents, sleepless nights, and panic attacks. Every time I looked at my daughter, I saw that day at the hospital play out in my mind again. Her tiny face in Sophia's arms. The screaming. The sirens. It played on a loop in my head, like a nightmare that wouldn't stop. But just when I thought it couldn't get worse, another twist. We found out Sophia was pregnant. Or at least, that's what she claimed. She posted ultrasound photos on social media. Said she was due in a few months. The timing was suspicious. Her story changed depending on who asked. Some people said she was doing IVF. Others said it was natural. No one could get a straight answer out of her. But she used it in court. Claimed that she was trying to be a better person. That she was inspired by Lila to start her own family. That she just wanted peace. That she wanted her future child to grow up knowing their cousin. I didn't buy it. Not for a second. But the judge? The judge looked like she might. The case is still ongoing. I don't know how it's going to end. But I know this, I'm not giving up. I'm not letting that woman anywhere near my child. Not again. Not ever. Just when I thought we were drowning in the worst of it, another twist hit. Not one of those small surprises, this one ripped the floor out from under us. Alex got a call from his job's HR department. They told him they had received a complaint. Someone claimed he was emotionally unstable and a danger to children. The person also said he had explosive outbursts at home and that Child Protective Services should be informed. The call came in anonymous, but we both knew exactly who was behind it. Sophia. It was her style, all over it. She was trying to set up a record, a trail, make it look like our home wasn't safe. She was laying the groundwork for something bigger. Not just visitation anymore. She was trying to come for custody. CPS showed up at our apartment 2 days later. It was a Tuesday morning. I was still in my robe, feeding Lila, and Alex had just started working from his desk. The knock on the door made me jump. When I opened it and saw the 2 people standing there, clipboard, badge, professional sympathy in their eyes, I swear I stopped breathing. They told us they had to inspect the home. That they had a report about possible neglect and verbal abuse in the household. I couldn't even speak. Alex stood there frozen, just nodding, letting them in. They walked through our apartment like strangers shopping for faults. Asked to see Lila's room, checked the fridge, asked me questions about my mental state, how often I left the house, if I had support. It felt like I was being examined under a microscope while already bleeding from the inside out. It took 2 hours. They left with polite words and told us they'd follow up. The second the door closed, I collapsed onto the couch and just sobbed. Alex didn't say anything. He just stood there, fists clenched at his sides, staring out the window like he could vaporize the entire world. We called our lawyer immediately. She wasn't surprised. "This is a classic pressure tactic," she said. "She's trying to get you to settle. If you panic and give her partial visitation now, she'll drop everything else. That's what she wants." But I couldn't breathe knowing that someone had come into our home thinking we weren't fit to be parents. I held Lila tighter that night than I ever had. And that's when I made a decision. We started documenting everything. Every time Sophia drove by the house. Every social media post where she made snide comments about people who steal babies and pretend they're mothers. Every whisper from her friends that got back to us. But something else happened during all this. A small shift that changed everything. Alex's mom switched sides. I didn't expect it. She'd defended Sophia at first, told us to let things go, but I think even she hit a breaking point. She came over one night unannounced, looking worn out and older than I'd ever seen her. "I'm sorry," she said, standing in our doorway. "I didn't believe you. I thought she was just upset. But she's not well." She sat at our kitchen table and told us that Sophia had lied. About the pregnancy. About everything. There was no baby. The ultrasound photos she'd posted were fake, taken from a Google image search. She never had IVF, never had a miscarriage. She was telling different stories to different people. Her friends had started pulling away. Even her therapist apparently dropped her after she tried to get a fraudulent letter for the court claiming postpartum grief when she'd never even had a child. "She's unraveling," Alex's mom whispered. "I don't know what she's capable of anymore." She offered to testify on our behalf. Said she would submit a sworn statement about Sophia's instability. That was the first small piece of good news we'd had in months. But it came with a chilling footnote. "She said something strange to me," she added, eyes darkening. "She said, if I can't have her, no one should." I thought she meant the baby. But now I'm scared she meant you. I didn't sleep that night. I kept imagining someone waiting outside the building, waiting for the right moment. So we added more cameras. We changed our routines. Alex started carrying pepper spray. I took Lila with me everywhere. And we went to court again, this time not just to fight the visitation case, but to push back hard. We filed a counter-petition. Emotional distress. Harassment. We submitted our evidence. Our lawyer laid it all out. But Sophia wasn't done. She walked into court with a neck brace and a sling, limping like she'd been hit by a truck. Claimed she had PTSD from the trauma of being denied access to her niece. Said the incident at the hospital caused her emotional collapse. That she was in therapy 3 times a week. That she had attempted self-harm because of our cruelty. It was sick. But the worst part? The judge started to look concerned. Now we're waiting for the court-appointed psychological evaluator to complete their report. It's mandatory now because of Sophia's claims, because of ours. They want to assess both parties. And so we wait. We survive. We keep our daughter safe and act like we're living normal lives, even though it feels like we're walking through a minefield every single day. Sophia hasn't backed down. Not even close. She's not just trying to win. She wants to destroy us. The court-appointed evaluator visited our home 3 times. She asked questions I wasn't ready to answer. About my childhood, about my fears. She talked to Alex, too. She watched how we interacted with Lila. She studied everything like a hawk, pretending to be friendly. Then she met with Sophia. Separately. We didn't know what she said, but after the final visit, the evaluator requested an emergency hearing. That alone sent chills down my spine. Our lawyer said it meant something serious had been discovered. And it wasn't good for Sophia. The courtroom was quiet when we walked in. Cold. Sterile. The kind of room that makes your stomach flip. Sophia was already there. No neck brace. No sling. She was dressed sharp and smiled like this was a brunch meetup instead of a legal battle. Then the evaluator stood. She didn't waste time. She said Sophia had demonstrated signs of untreated personality disorder traits, delusional tendencies, and manipulative behavior. That she had fabricated medical records, faked a pregnancy, and had shown obsessive behaviors toward Lila that were deeply concerning. She recommended a permanent restraining order, supervised psychiatric treatment, and zero contact with our daughter. There was a pause so long it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then Sophia snapped. In front of everyone. Judge, lawyers, spectators, she screamed. Not just cried or protested. Screamed. She's mine. That baby should have been mine. You stole everything from me. She pointed at me, then at Alex. I was supposed to have this life. Not her. Not some woman who stole my brother and turned him against me. Her voice cracked. Her body shook. She's not even that special, she hissed. She doesn't deserve any of this. Not the baby. Not you. And that's when Alex stood. No, he said. His voice was shaking, but steady. This stops today. He walked toward her, not too close, and said, You need help. Real help. And for years we've all walked on eggshells around you. But you almost ruined our lives. You scared my wife half to death. You're not part of this family anymore. Sophia stared at him like he'd stabbed her. The judge ordered her removed from the courtroom. She was escorted out, still screaming about lies, betrayal, how she was the victim. It didn't matter anymore. No one was listening. Outside the courthouse, Alex's mother stood alone, watching the door where Sophia had disappeared. She didn't say anything for a long time. Then she looked at us and whispered, I didn't know. I should have seen it. I didn't say anything. I wanted to. I wanted to yell, to blame her for not stopping it sooner, for not believing me, for letting it get this far. But I saw the look on her face. She was already broken. The next few weeks were quiet. No more phone calls. No more letters. No more stalking. We changed our number anyway. Blocked everyone we didn't trust. Focused on healing. But healing doesn't look like what people think. Some nights I'd wake up in a cold sweat, convinced Sophia was outside. Some days Alex would flinch every time his phone buzzed. We both started therapy. We both cried in silence more than we admitted. Lila was the only light we had to hold on to. The restraining order was granted. Sophia disappeared. Rumors floated. About her being in a facility, about her moving states, about her trying to sue someone else. I didn't care. She was gone. Alex's mother tried to repair things. She'd stop by with groceries or ask to watch Lila for an hour. Sometimes I said yes. Sometimes I didn't. We were never rude, just cautious. She'd lost a daughter too, in a way. What stayed with me was this bitter truth. Not every family member is safe. Blood doesn't mean loyalty. It doesn't mean love. And sometimes, protecting your child means burning bridges you never thought you'd cross. People always talk about motherhood like it's this glowing, sacred thing. But no one talks about the part where you become a soldier. A guardian. A wall. I lost a piece of myself during all this. The part that used to trust too easily. The part that smiled at holiday dinners and assumed everyone had good intentions. But I gained something too. I know who I am now. I'm not just a mother. I'm Lila's shield. Her fighter. And I will never let anyone break through again. Not even family.